All right, welcome back to the deep dive, everybody. When we asked you all to send in your record collections, we knew we'd get some good stuff, but this one is truly special.
Well, 8 albums on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest. That's impressive.
It really is. So today we're going to dive deep into your collection, and let's kick things off at number 8, The Gilded Palace of Finn by the Flying Burrito Brothers. Okay, full disclosure, I had to do a little homework on this one, but man, once I gave it a listen, what a gem.
Oh, absolutely. This is considered a foundational album for country rock. This perfect blend of, that classic country sound, but with a rock and roll edge. It screams late 60s.
It does. I'm picturing Graham Parsons, nudie suit, that long hair, that glint in his eye. And the music itself, you've got that outlaw spirit, but there's also a melancholy there.
Yeah, almost a spiritual searching, wouldn't you say?
Totally. And you think about when this came out, 1969, the world was changing so fast. And I feel like this album, it reflects that search for meaning.
Right, blending those classic country themes like heartbreak, redemption, but with a rock and roll attitude.
A whole generation trying to figure things out.
Exactly. And that title, The Gilded Palace of Sin, it perfectly captures that tension between wanting something more and the allure of the darker side of life.
Okay, this one's officially going on my list. But speaking of must-listens, at number 7, we've got The Grateful Dead, Working Man's Dead. Now, I'm a Deadhead myself, but this album, it always felt different.
Yeah, it's definitely a departure from their earlier psychedelic stuff. Working Man's Dead has this more traditional feel, almost like going back to their roots.
More and more Americana, right? Like folk, bluegrass.
Exactly. And Jerry Garcia's pedal steel on this album, it just adds this depth, this mournful quality that fits the lyrics so perfectly.
Oh man, his pedal steel, it's haunting. Did you know they recorded this at Wally Heider's studio? The same place where Santana, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young were all recording.
Oh, wow, what a scene that must have been.
Right. Talk about a creative melting pot.
And you can hear that energy in the music. It's warm, organic, like a group of friends just jamming.
Okay. Number 6 is an interesting one, Dr. John. Gris Gris. I'm familiar with the name, but I've never actually listened to the album, so what am I in for?
Get ready for a trip to New Orleans. Gris Gris is unlike anything else on this list. It's psychedelic rock, funk, blues. And this heavy dose of New Orleans voodoo culture.
Okay, voodoo, now you got my attention. So is this like ritual music?
I wouldn't say ritual music, but it definitely evokes that spirit of New Orleans. There's a sense of mystery, magic, like you're caught between the worlds of the living and the dead.
And Dr. John himself, he was a pretty interesting character, right?
Oh, yeah. Malcolm Rebenek, the man behind Dr. John, was a true New Orleans original. Grew up surrounded by music, played piano in R&B bands, even got into some trouble in his younger days.
Sounds like a life straight out of a blues song.
It really does. And that experience, you can hear it in his music. It gives it this authenticity.
Okay, color me intrigued. I got to give this a listen. So we've got rebellious country rock, a stripped-down Americana journey, and a dose of New Orleans voodoo. This deep dive is already shaping up to be pretty amazing. What's next?
Well, we're sticking with the Grateful Dead for number 5. This time, it's American Beauty.
Ah, classic.
Yeah.
But how does this one compare to Working Man's Dead, which came out the same year?
American Beauty keeps exploring that Americana sound, but it's more polished, more melodic, lots of acoustic guitar, beautiful harmonies, and these songs that tell stories about love, loss, searching for meaning.
It's like a sunny California road trip, top down, wind in your hair.
That's a great way to put it. And like Working Man's Dead, they recorded this at Wally Heider's studio, but this time Jerry Garcia had a new toy, his pedal steel guitar.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned his pedal steel on Working Man's Dead, but on American Beauty, he really shines.
Absolutely. Ripple is a perfect example. The pedal steel just weaves through the melody, creating this ethereal sound.
It's beautiful. All right, we got to talk about Bob Dylan now. Bringing It All Back Home is at number 4. And this album is a game changer.
It really is. This is where Dylan, he plugs in the electric guitar and shakes up the folk world. It was a huge change from his earlier work, and it caused quite a stirring.
I can imagine. The folk purists must have freaked out.
Some did. They saw it as a betrayal of folk music, but others, they saw it as Dylan being Dylan. Constantly evolving, refusing to be put in a box.
And it wasn't just the electric guitar, the lyrics on this album. They're just this whirlwind of imagery, wordplay, social commentary.
Yeah, like he's challenging you to to think differently, to see the world in a new way.
Think about Subterranean Homesick Blues. That rapid-fire delivery set to this driving rock beat.
And that video with Dylan flipping through the cue cards.
Iconic. Pure genius. So we've got rebellious country rock, a double dose of Americana, a taste of New Orleans magic, and now Dylan's Electric Revolution. I'm sensing a theme here, a love for artists who break the mold.
That's a great observation. And your next pick definitely fits that description. Coming in at number 3, John Coltrane, A Love Supreme.
This one is a true masterpiece,
Yeah.
both musically and spiritually. It's more than just an album. It's a meditation on faith, love, and enlightenment.
Coltrane himself described it as a suite in 4 parts, each representing a different stage of his spiritual journey. It starts with acknowledgement, this powerful declaration of faith, and ends with psalm, a musical prayer of gratitude.
And to think, Coltrane was already a legend at this point, but he was still searching, still pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, his spiritual practice is so important to him, and you can hear that in every note of Love Supreme. It transcends genre, time, it speaks directly to the soul.
This is an album that you really have to sit with to fully experience.
It's not background music, it's a call to look inward.
It is, and your top 2 picks, they're equally iconic. We're heading into, well, let's just say musical royalty territory.
We are.
And I think everyone knows where this is going. But before we reveal your number 1 pick, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with the final 2 albums on your list, and you won't want to miss it.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into your record collection. We've been on quite a journey so far, from country rock to New Orleans voodoo, and now we're heading into legendary territory with your top 2 picks as Street Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and Abbey Road, both by the one and only Beatles.
Yeah, I mean, talk about iconic albums. It's almost hard to know where to even begin with these. But let's start with Street Pepper coming in at number 2 on your list. What is it about this album that makes it so special for you?
Well, for me, Street Pepper it's more than just an album. It's a cultural phenomenon. Released in 1967 at the height of psychedelia, it captured this moment of incredible creativity and experimentation, musically, lyrically, visually. It just pushed boundaries.
Like I said, okay, let's throw out the rule book and create something completely new.
And they did. It was groundbreaking in its use of studio technology. The Beatles and their producer, George Martin, they were pioneers in using things like tape loops, backward recordings, even the Moog synthesizer to create these just incredibly layered and textured soundscapes.
And so many of the techniques they use on Street Pepper, they became staples in music production. Think about the swirling psychedelic sound of Strawberry Fields Forever that was achieved through this innovative use of tape loops and Verispeed recording.
Right, and then you have Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, with that carnival-like atmosphere that was created by cutting up and reassembling pieces of vintage calliope recording. It's amazing.
And it wasn't just about using these techniques for the sake of it. They were used to enhance the storytelling, to create this truly immersive listening experience.
Exactly. Take a Day in the Life, the album's closing track. It's this masterpiece of songwriting and studio production. You have John Lennon's dreamlike narrative blending with Paul McCartney's more grounded observations, all held together by that just unforgettable orchestral crescendo.
And that final piano chord.
Chill.
Every time.
It's a moment that stays with you.
And we can't talk about Street Pepper without mentioning that album cover.
Oh, yeah. It's basically a visual representation of everything the music stands for. This explosion of color, this playful mix of high and low culture, this celebration of individuality and creative expression.
It's a masterpiece of pop art with a collage of like over 70 famous figures, from Bob Dylan to Marilyn Monroe, Karl Marx to Edgar Allan Poe.
It's a statement about the changing times, the blurring of boundaries between art and pop culture.
So we've got groundbreaking studio techniques, innovative storytelling, and iconic visuals. No wonder Street Pepper remains one of the most influential albums of all time.
It's an album that continues to inspire and challenge musicians and listeners alike. It's a testament to the power of imagination and the endless possibilities of music.
Okay, let's move on to your number 1 pick, Abbey Road. Another Beatles masterpiece, but one with a very different feel.
Yeah, Abbey Road is often seen as the band's swan song, the final chapter in their incredible journey. It was the last album they recorded together as a band, although Let It Be was actually released later. And it's filled with this sense of maturity and reflection, this recognition that their time together was coming to an end.
Yeah, there's a real bittersweet quality to it, a sense of closure.
Absolutely. And it's reflected in the music, which is more introspective and contemplative than some of their earlier work.
And then side two of the album, it's basically one long suite of songs seamlessly blending together into this epic composition.
It's a bold move, and it showcases the Beatles' songwriting prowess at its peak. You have these seemingly disparate song fragments, each with its own unique character woven together to create this cohesive and emotionally resonant whole.
It's like a musical tapestry, each thread contributing to the overall design, and then that final chord of the end.
So abrupt, so decisive, perfect.
It's like a statement of finality.
It is.
And of course, we can't talk about Abbey Road without mentioning that iconic album covered the image of the four Beatles walking across a zebra crossing.
Oh, it's become one of the most recognizable images in music history.
And it's such a simple image, but it's so loaded with meaning. Some people see it as a symbol of unity, of the band moving forward together. Others interpret it as a farewell, with each Beatle heading off in their own direction.
I think it's open to interpretation, which is part of what makes it so enduring. It's become this cultural touchstone, a symbol of an era, and a testament to the enduring power of the Beatles' music.
So we've journeyed from the country rock rebellion of the Flying Burrito Brothers to the psychedelic landscapes of Slate Pepper, from the Americana storytelling of the Grateful Dead to the spiritual depths of John Coltrane, and finally to the bittersweet farewell of Abbey Road. What a collection.
It's truly remarkable. It speaks volumes about your eclectic taste and your deep appreciation for the history and evolution of popular music.
We've only scratched the surface of these 8 albums, but hopefully this has given you some new insights and perspectives to consider. And before we wrap things up, I have one final question for you. If you could choose one artist from your collection to spend a day with, to learn from, to jam with, who would it be and why?
That is a tough question. Each of these artists has something unique to offer, a different perspective on music and life. But if I had to choose, I think I'd go with Bob Dylan.
Why Dylan?
Well, think about his journey from folk to rock to is everything in between. He's constantly reinventing himself, never afraid to experiment. And his lyrics, they're just pure poetry. They're filled with this imagery and wordplay that just makes you think and feel.
He's a master storyteller.
He is. And to spend a day with him, to hear his stories, to pick his brain about his creative process, that would be an absolute dream.
I could imagine you two sitting on a porch somewhere, guitars in hand, trading stories and songs. And that's what's so beautiful about music. It has this power to connect us across generations, to inspire us, to challenge us, to make us think and feel. And it's a journey that never ends. So
Yeah, and what's really cool is how these 8 albums, they all come together to tell a story about your connection to music.
it's like a musical fingerprint, unique to you.
It is.
That's what makes this so fun. You know, it's not just about listening to music. It's about engaging with it, exploring it.
Letting it spark your curiosity.
Exactly. That's the beauty of great music. It transcends time.
It does.
So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep listening, keep digging deeper. You never know what you might find. And a huge thank you to you for sharing your incredible record collection with us. It's been a real pleasure.